Hello, everybody. Thanks for jumping on this session with us. This is Joel with Consensus. We're just about to get started with the first session of the day. So hopefully you've got your morning coffee ready, ramped up for Jeff's presentation. Yeah, I'm your moderator for today, and we're gonna get started here in just 1 second. So today's session is about leveraging pre-sales knowledge to influence not only deal strategy, but also your company at large by Jeff Armstrong. So I'm an account executive here at Consensus in our enterprise sales department, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Notice there's a poll we've already posted. Feel free to interact with the poll and answer that question. We're going to serve up a couple of interactive polls for you throughout the session. Quick shameless plug: Consensus is the host and presenter of DEMOFEST. If you don't know what Consensus is, we're an intelligent demo automation software that helps scale pre-sales through interactive video demos. If you want to learn more, feel free to visit our site at goconsensus.com. Now, Consensus is proud to present all of DEMOFEST free of charge, we do invite and encourage each of you to support any of the humanitarian efforts and organizations which we support, where you can learn more about this and others in our reception hall, or even visit DEMOFEST Gives Back section in the expo booth. Now, we encourage each of you to participate. Jeff and I have talked a great deal about this session, that we want this to be as much of a conversation as possible. So there's numerous ways you can engage with Jeff and I. And the first is through chat. So if you notice at the top right of your hop-in login here, there's a chat tab where you can submit a question or submit any chat for anybody that's in attendance for today's session. Secondly, you can also answer any of the poll questions, which again, we've teed one up for you already, and we'll see the results here in just a moment. And then there's a Q&A section. Please feel free to submit any questions. We'll probably carve out some time to address questions specifically at the end. But if there's a question that's relevant throughout the session, we're happy to pause and kind of address those. You can also upvote questions, kind of put the thumbs up to see, kind of vote a question up to make sure we carve out time for it. And lastly, if you have any issues or technical difficulties, click your profile at the top right and you can get to the Get Support section. Now, last but not least, let me introduce Jeff Armstrong, our presenter today. Jeff has spent the last 7 years in pre-sales, from demo engineer to VP. And even prior to moving into pre-sales, he worked in product support as a customer of the products that his team actually demonstrates today. So he lives in St. Augustine, Florida, with his family and 2 kids, where he enjoys working out, playing tennis. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you, Joel. Morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. I wish I could say I planned the colors to match the Consensus's colors, but I'm actually on the road presenting from the great state of Arizona, where it's a dry heat. So 99 is supposed to not be hot here, they say, but I don't believe it. So I'm going to get my slides going here. Bear with me 1 second. Demo crime number 1 when you're on the road, right? So used to having 2 monitors, and now we have 1 today. So really appreciate the time together. And as I was thinking about this particular, what to talk about here, I think a lot about what we get to do in pre-sales to influence deals. We're involved day to day, but also we're involved in so much more than that. We're involved in things around our company and the things that we get to do to really drive our company forward. So I really was excited to have this session with you all, and looking forward to having a discussion, as Joel mentioned. So feel free to drop questions in the chat there or comments and interact with each other. So a little bit about me. This is the picture of me when I'm pretending to be professional and putting on my game face. And as Joel just mentioned, I live in St. Augustine, Florida. The picture on the right is who I really am when I'm not working all day. This is me and my family at the beach, one of my favorite places to go when we have the time. Very blessed to have a healthy family and a family that supports everything I do here at Central Square. Our company is dedicated to delivering solutions to public safety and public administration companies around really not just basically North America, but even some places outside of the countries here in North America. We are dedicated lot. Our pre-sales team is about 65 strong. That includes a proposals team, which joined our team last year, and I'm very grateful to have the proposal management team and with us, because what it's given us the opportunity to do is see, it's helped me learn more holistically the sales cycle. We do a lot of proposals. Certainly, most of our agencies have to buy through an RFP process. So it's given me a holistic view of some of the pieces I didn't have as much exposure to in the sales cycle, and it's really helped. I think we've learned a lot from that team, and also helped us learn how to kind of influence deals in a bigger way, even earlier on. So I do want to start with a little bit of a story. This picture, I went back and forth on whether to share this. Again, this is sort of me when I'm in my element. I love to be the center of attention, and it's really not an ego thing for me. I love to be the center of attention because I like to have a part in helping people engage, have fun together, share knowledge, share ideas, share stories. This picture is actually from our user conference this year in Orlando, Florida. One of my loving leaders on our team actually set me up and went to the band and said, "Hey, can you call Jeff up on stage for the last song?" They wouldn't give me a microphone, which was probably a good thing for everyone in attendance there. We had a few hundred, I think, customers still standing around at this point. It was a great time, and we sang. The band sang, I should say, not we. I lip synced and kind of just moved around the stage in a horrible manner to try to get people to sing along to one of my favorite songs to do karaoke to, which is Garth Brooks' "Friends in Low Places." And there are some videos out there. If you pay the right people from my team, they may share it to you. I just don't want to be party to those discussions. I'd rather not know. But it's what I love about doing karaoke and doing things like this is the ability to get people having a good time together, creating that sense of community, and getting people working together. So as I was thinking about being the center of attention and what we are in pre-sales in the center, I thought of a nucleus, and not because I'm a biophysicist or chemist. I frankly know very little about science, to be honest with you. I'm fascinated by it, but I'm not very educated in it. And so as I was kind of Googling a nucleus and what is its purpose in a cell, it actually has three specific purposes. They are to store the cell's DNA, they're to maintain its integrity, and to facilitate replication. And that it kind of came to me as I was building out this presentation. That's exactly what we are in pre-sales. Is we are the nucleus of the organizations that we work in. And so in a similar vein, pre-sales, we are in the center of product and customer success, implementation, and sales. And we are involved so heavily, as you all know, in so many motions, not just in a deal to deal process, but all the things that go on throughout our company. We are in the middle of all those pieces. And frankly, I think that's how we are wired in pre-sales. Is we love to be in the middle of everything. Maybe we don't all love to do karaoke, but we do love to be in the middle of the action. And I can tell you some of my favorite memories of doing this job are when we leave a demo and it goes really well, and you walk out feeling like you've got a great shot to win that deal. It's the best feeling, and we want to be in that hunt and fight. And so as we talk about kind of how do we drive deals forward, there's a few things that we can do that continue to help us be in a better position to win. So one of the things that we preach a lot in our team, and I hear a lot amongst pre-sales peers that we talk to, is getting in early in an opportunity, right? So the last thing you want to see is that a customer is basically in buying motion and just looking to do a demo and then make their decision. You're probably too late if you're being asked to demo right before they're making their buying decision. And one of the ways that you can get in early which again, grateful to our proposal leadership team who's kind of helped guide me on some of these pieces, especially over the last year, is when you get in early with a proposal, you have the opportunity to even share your specifications at times. So there are customers, if you have a customer that actually goes through an RFP process, a request for proposal process, they may come and say, "Hey, I've got to build a proposal to go through this," and a lot of times they don't know where to start. They don't know what they're looking for because maybe they've had the same software for a few years, which is pretty common. So they're not really sure what they need to look for and ask. So that's an opportunity for your seller to provide specifications to that agency or to that customer prospect to help guide them. Now, those specifications are certainly going to be geared towards the power and the strength of your solution. So if you know there's, and every solution has gaps, no matter what it is, but you know what your gaps are. So this is where your pre-sales team has the ability to not only provide a great template proposal wise, but also to ensure that that template provided has the avoids, if you will, calling out some specific items that may be gaps in your solution. Because you know what's going to happen if it's in a proposal, when you get to demo phase, you're going to have to demo it as well. And so it's a great opportunity to drive them towards closer to the strengths of your solution. If it's something like automation, you may have extra specifications that ask around those pieces, so you get to really flex in the proposal and you get to flex in the demo itself. Whether or not they use your specifications is really on the seller. The seller needs to be, and that's where they need to be driving that conversation very, very early in the process. Now, recognize this is a pre-sales discussion, so you may be thinking, well, why are we talking so much about the sales, what some of the seller's pieces are? And this is where I keep coming back to, I know so many people, I mean, everyone on our team in pre-sales, but we've got a lot of folks who've moved to other companies doing pre-sales. I've met many peers at different events in pre-sales, and it's amazing. The fabric I see throughout here is one of make it happen. We are the people that will make it happen, even if it's quote not our job to make something happen. So if it's something that's on the seller, we're not afraid to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I need you to make sure that we're getting in front of this person early and that we're getting these specifications to them." It's okay to flex and push on the sales team to make sure that they're doing these motions early. Discovery call. So I know everyone preaches discovery in pre-sales. It's a huge part of what we believe in. It positions us to win much better when we know what we're trying to accomplish with that customer prospect. And discovery call isn't just for demos, though. I believe every interaction with a customer or prospect is an opportunity for more discovery. And if it's done correctly, if we're asking the right questions, and if the seller's asking the right questions early and often, and if that information is being properly captured and shared back to your pre-sales team, you're in a position to start learning little bits along the way. And the earlier that pre-sales is aware of some of these discussions, if you know that motion's going to end in a demo, we can have internal conversations with the seller. Maybe it's your pre-sales leader, you as a pre-sales leader, maybe it's a particular SC that may be assigned to that seller, or maybe it's just one of the stronger SCs on the team that may have some additional knowledge to share, to just provide little nuggets of guidance. And it's not a matter of trying to hold the hand of the seller on this. It's a matter of being an advisor internally to make sure this deal follows the path with as much influence as it can from us, because the more we influence it, hopefully the better that demo is going to go for us, because we're going to go in having influenced some of the variables that come into play along the way. And that's where a pre-demo strategy call really comes in. It is making sure that there is very good alignment between the seller and the pre-sales team on every opportunity. And our team does a great job of this. Our leaders really, really push for these demo strategy calls. What is the purpose of this demo? What are we trying to accomplish? What are the win themes? What are the things we need to watch for? And even some of the nuanced pieces that always seem to come up. In this world that we're in now, we have a situation where You know, we have hybrid audiences no matter what we do. We have in our case, we have a good part of our team that's still traveling and traveled almost entirely through COVID still. And then we have another part of our sector that really hasn't started welcoming people back on site very much. So we may have pockets of people on site and then other presenters remote. And it creates this difficulty of I may have someone presenting remotely and someone is physically in a room asking a question sitting in the back of a large room and I can't hear them. That's where having a moderator, just like Joel is kindly doing for me today, and you know, in that case, what we're looking for is making sure that we keep streamlined communications throughout the demo. So on that demo strategy call, making sure the seller understands, hey, if you know if you're on site and some of us are remote, please ensure that you're the one or making sure whoever's asking the question is close to the microphone and repeating that back to the demo person. Those little pieces like that refine the demo experience. And as we know, the smoother that is, the more what we're trying to get to is that helps us get closer to being a trusted advisor. Because we've also seen cases where if someone is presenting and they come in with no strategy because maybe the salesperson didn't really have that conversation with the customer, or maybe we don't know what we're trying to accomplish and we're being dragged into a demo unwillingly. And what happens there is that the customer ends up coming with a completely different agenda than what was expected by the presenter. And maybe the customer spends the first 30 minutes peppering us with questions that were not on the table, maybe not even for the person that's on the phone. And then what happens is by the time that presenter gets to their material, they've lost the trust. They don't have a chance of winning trusted advisor status in that session. So keeping this alignment with the sellers early and often and having constant communications is super important, as you all know, to making sure that we have a strong demo.
Jeff,
And yes, go ahead, Joel.
if I can interrupt you, that's a really good point. I got a question coming in from Jacob Smith around just the size of your SE organization. Can you tell us a little bit about the size, how they align to different AEs?
Yeah,
how that works.
Great question. And I'm actually at a summit right now with a few pre-sales leaders here in Arizona, and we were talking last night about different structures, and it is interesting, right? Because we see some groups that have them aligned regionally, or some may even have SE tied to specific AE or AEs. In our case, we actually have a team. So we have two verticals. We have public administration solutions consultants, and then we have public safety solutions consultants, and they are tied to specific products. So our products are very complex. They have a lot of configurability in them and pieces like that, and require a lot of inherent knowledge to be able to present them well. Some of these demos can go 2 and 3 days long. So you can imagine how that starts to turn into, we tend to maybe send a couple people to specific demos depending on the type of deal. And so the way we're structured is we actually have teams aligned by product and product area based on their specialty, and they support the entire coverage area that we're demoing to. How we pull that off, a question that comes up a lot is we keep seeing in the stats, and we've seen them in the reports that Consensus has sent out to all of us, that the demand on demo teams continues to go up, but we're not getting more headcount, right? So how are we supporting those efforts? Well, one, we have and I say we, the team that I work with, our leadership team does an incredible job of really playing defense and making sure that we are strategically aligning our team to the right opportunities at the right time. And so to answer your question, sorry, that was a long beginning to my answer. We are structured in a way, we have 65 in the pre-sales group. That includes proposal management, proposal responders, including architects, demo engineers, and then solutions consultants. And our solutions consultants, we have about, I'm going off of memory, even though I have my org chart off to the side, I believe we're at about 17 in public safety and about 15 in public admin. It's right around there, just to answer your question. They are not regional. What we try to do is those that are traveling, when it's feasible, we try to keep, if we have an opportunity, and let's say in Massachusetts, and I've got someone in Massachusetts that lives there and someone that lives in California, we're trying our best, and our leaders do a great job of this, of trying to get the closest one there. But there's so much that goes into play and the opportunity for us that Sometimes schedule wise, we may have just people in different places because maybe they were on the deal already working. Some of these deals could have a couple of demos to get us there, unfortunately, because of deal cycle. If we have an RFP in place, and if we get in there early, we might have a pre-RFP discussion slash, early look demo. And then, a real finals round demo after, as you get later in the RFP process. So hopefully that answers the question to give you an idea. So we do not align by region. We don't assign specific SEs to specific AEs. Our leaders actually assign SEs to opportunities based on kind of, what's going on at the moment. Did I answer the question there, Joel? Was there another part I missed there?
Are you still with us, Jeff?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Yep. Okay.
Just want to make sure. So Jeff's on the road in a hotel doing double time. So we want to.
Did I cut out there for a second? I'm sorry.
For some reason, the video cut out and there was a little spinning wheel, but it looks like you're back. There's a question from Mark Stringer saying, can you share the difference in your org between a demo engineer versus an SC?
Oh, yes. Great question. So our solutions engineers or demo engineers, that's what I was when I came in here. We actually, we support all of the tech from a solutions perspective. So installing and upgrading the applications, setting up the environments, maintaining the environments, and even supporting the hardware and technology portions for our demo team. So we act in a small way. A piece of what they do is about kind of playing internal IT for our team, but the biggest piece is delivering, killer performing environments for our team that are reliable. But because we have a team that's traveling heavily, we have a lot of equipment on site for some of these pieces. There's a lot of moving parts into that. So that team is working very hard to make sure that we have demo systems that are up to par and can perform at a very high level. We have our solutions are have a lot of complexities to them, configurability. There's integration setup and things like that. So it's something that requires a lot of eyeballs, not a lot, but eyes on it to make sure that those run efficiently for the team. Solutions consultants, they do have certainly an expectation of technical understanding and acumen, being able to handle AV, those sorts of things in their own equipment. But also they are the functional experts of our software. How does it apply? How does it address the needs of an agency, and doing that kind of tying what the solution does to the needs of the customer to create value.
Wonderful.
Great question. Any other questions so far, Joel?
I think that does it. I kind of curious, just from my own perspective, it sounds like you have some demos that might run a few days long. So I imagine there's a tremendous amount of prep that goes into it, involving, like you said, various groups, all within pre-sales and sales. How far in advance of an on-site or a live customer demo do you guys typically do your preparation? Do you find any I don't know, the quality of the demo is better if you have more, I don't know, prep a week or 2 weeks ahead? Kind of curious what your perspective is there.
Yeah, I'm smirking because I know this is a pain point for our team, and our leaders do a great job of really pushing back on sellers who try to keep that window super small and tight. We see a lot of reactionary responses to customers, and it isn't just in our. I mean, last night I heard it from a lot of other fellow pre-sellers. I think it's a common thing where if you hear someone is excited to buy, you get excited to move to the next stage, and a lot of times that next stage is, let me get the demo team involved. And so we've really pushed for having at least 2 weeks warning on sites. We really ideally would love to get more to 3 or 4 weeks, and we at rare times get that kind of warning for a lot of reasons. There's a cost component, especially with travel expenses getting really crazy right now. The further out you can purchase travel, the hopefully a little more fiscally better it is for you. But what we see is we really ideally would like to have at least 2 weeks because, to your point, Joel, the longer we have to prepare in advance, and keeping in mind that those teams that are traveling right now are really almost back-to-back travel. Some of them were on the road, I think 48 to 52 weeks last year.
Wow.
So the more warning they get, they can fit in little preparation discussions, calls, review. They like to review the RFP, responses. They like to look at executive priorities that may be posted on a customer's website, those sorts of things. So, and they like to cater the messaging and some of the pieces that they talk about in the demo right directly to what that agency has shared, either to us in a proposal, in discovery, or even things that maybe came out in a press release from those agencies, for example. So long story short, the more warning, the better, because you can plan better, and then you can also make sure you prepare better together.
Now, most of your customers are in the public sector, and from my understanding, so I'm assuming that their expectations on a delay between a conversation and then coordinating a live demo is that it'll be a little bit slower than maybe some of the folks that are on our call today, our session. But how do you balance, I guess, I don't know, this being able to quickly meet buyers' needs and demands with preparation? I feel like that's a 3 weeks delay would crush me as a salesperson, and I'd be that
Yeah.
reactionary. I'd give the customer what they want.
Yeah, and it's a great call out, because we do, and when you're talking about a 2, 3, 4 day demo, a 2 week request is reasonable,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you're talking about building a presentation that is a massive undertaking. We also know if it's in the right motion of the RFP, we sometimes know schedule wise what potential windows of time are. So we kind of have tentative holds, but we don't start planning until we know we've been selected for a specific demo window. So really what it comes down to is making sure that we do leverage automation tools. There are great tools out there, of course. I know Consensus has a great tool, as you mentioned in the beginning. Vidyard is another great one that doesn't allow the demo, choose your own demo, but it does, we still leverage it for some basic metrics and being able to provide videos out to customers. And what that allows us to do is what it lets us do is using our demos at the right time, and where we can, leveraging video for earlier phase options, so that we can ensure that we're saving our team for the right motions at the right times. And so, long story short, I mean, we really try to answer as many things as we can. I mean, we have done much quicker turnarounds for on-sites. We do it sadly a lot because we have to. But so when I say 2 weeks at least, that's sort of our dream ask, and it's
yeah,
for what we're trying to accomplish on some of these bigger on-site demos. It really is necessary to be fully prepared.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of conversation happening on the chat about alignment with SCs. Are they aligned to specific account executives, to products? So we're seeing quite a few. And by the way, we have a few polls, Jeff. Wanted to just check in on a few of those polls.
Sure. Yeah.
We have some, on the karaoke singing. Looks like we are in line with the majority of the group. Friends in Low Places, Garth Brooks is the
Excellent.
number one thus far. We also have a lot of folks that are sweat shorts wearers, and a lot of jean wearers. I guess the poll results have come back and shifted towards jeans.
Wow, that's surprising. So living in Florida, jeans are not on my radar. And I'm wearing dress pants and dress shoes right now, just so everyone knows. I'm not wearing jorts or anything for this presentation. So there's no party down below, like you mentioned in your poll, Joel.
Good deal. Well, let's keep things moving. I know you've got a couple other slides and points you want to make, but great conversation and chat. And
yeah,
folks, there's a Q&A section. If there are questions you want to reserve for the end, we can always tee those up at the end too.
Great. And thanks everyone for the interaction in the chat as well. And I kind of stole my thunder a little bit here in my answer to Joel a moment ago, but making sure that your demos are positioned at the right times. And I know this is a big struggle we have, that we're always working with the sellers to improve that. Because if you show things too early, if a customer calls and says, "Hey, I want a demo of your solution," and then you just, give them, as Peter Cohen likes to call, the harbor tour of a demo, and over here we have this module, and over here we have this one, you really run out of wow moments by the time you get to the demo where it counts. When you're demoing to the, all the decision makers in the room, and it's everything's on the table, and they've already seen this a couple times. excitement left. So being able to use targeted, shorter, small videos, and I saw part of Alistair's session right before this, where he was talking about, the average person watches a video for about 3 minutes. And I think I actually saw one of the participants post in the chat, so I'm going to steal his comment because it's a good one. That, think YouTube, not Hollywood, right? People like to watch trailers and little pieces. They don't like to watch documentaries anymore. And so making sure that you're targeting your videos to be a specific length that you'll get viewers, views out of those that are quality. Hopefully it buys you time so that you can delay the demo to the right time in the buying process. Knowing your customer, and I kind of talked a little bit about this. This again is a seller motion, but it's also a pre-sales motion. Knowing who the decision makers and influencers are when you're getting into the proposal, when you're getting into the demo phase. Why that matters is because these are the folks that are going to be making that decision, first of all, but also they're the ones that are probably going to be asking you some tough questions when you get in the demo itself. They're going to be the ones that could either be your best champion of what you're trying to accomplish as a trusted advisor, or they could be your detractor and take you down in the demo. And I've seen both of those happen. I'm sure many folks on this call have seen both of those happen. So knowing who you're going to go present in front of is very helpful. Doing your research on the discovery, it's important to know who are these players that are in the discovery that we've got into the call. What do they do? What's driving them? What's important to them? Why is this something that they want to do? Is it something they want to do? Sometimes you'll learn that one of them is being dragged to this decision discussion and they have no interest in implementing a new solution. Maybe they love the old solution and they're going to be the ones that drag their feet. So finding a way to turn your detractors even into neutral players so they aren't ones that try to detract you in the demo is very, very helpful. Sometimes you can get intel from the seller. Sometimes you can get live intel during the demo itself. You might be watching, body language and faces in the room or faces on camera. And if you see someone rolling their eyes or crossing their arms and huffing and puffing, that's someone you may need to pull aside in a break if that's an opportunity, and just have a chat to be a human with them for a minute. It doesn't have to be about what you're demoing. But other ways you can know your customer is doing research on them on LinkedIn, knowing those folks that are the big players. And what is their background? Where did they go to school? What was their background before they worked at the customer they're at now? Those pieces go a long way because it shows you've done your homework and your research. And we have great pre-sellers on our team that do these things, and you can see the appreciation people have when you show them that you've done homework on them as people and professionals as well. It goes a long way to moving you into that trusted advisor status, because when you've differentiated yourself in that way, you're going to stand out, and that demo is gonna pop for those decision makers. And knowing what they need, and this goes back to having a really good discovery again, is asking the questions that gets down to the needs that are driving this motion. What is bothering them? What is getting in their way? What are the things that keep them up at night? I know you've heard these terms a lot when you talk about discovery, because when you create need, then you can create value in your solution to meet that need. And it's not about throwing features and functions at them to say, oh, well, this thing here, does this and that does that. Being able to say that, hey, I have a customer who had this same problem, and by moving to this part of our solution, it saved them, this much time per day. And it's also given them more time to focus on other efforts that they needed to do. When you know the needs and the pain points, you can start tying values in your demo. Based on what you're showing, you can tie values directly to those needs. And when you do that, it shows you've gotten to know them and you've empathized with them. And empathy goes a long way into creating that trusted advisor role. And so I kind of talked about trusted advisor, and of course, discovery. Again, I know I keep saying this word, but it is so important. And if you're being asked to go do a demo blind, it's too soon. You need to get your opportunity to get in front of that prospect or customer to understand what's driving them in this motion before you even start showing software. Knowing your competition. So this is a fun one because you do have competitors, right? We're on a track meet trying to be the first across the line. with that customer or prospect that's buying. And so researching your competition, you can look up YouTube, you can look at press releases that they have. You can keep an eye on what they're bragging about, because you can at least be aware that that's probably something that I'm going to have to be prepared for when we demo our solution. Is, will the customer ask me about that motion and that feature that maybe they bragged about at the competitor? What is my response to that? Do I have something that does something like that? If not, how do I mitigate that noise if it comes up in a demo, and how do I overcome it with some other powerful, strengths of my solution that address other bigger needs for that customer? We actually have a small team that does internal competitive analysis that works in our marketing department, and Catherine does a great job of assembling all this data and taking feedback from all of our team. So sharing that information back internally is very helpful to making sure that everyone in sales and pre-sales is prepared for what your competitors are going to be saying and showing. And knowing your solution, I know this sounds obvious, but it's a reminder that we have to be experts in our solution. How to, not just all the bells and whistles, but what problems does it solve for the customers and prospects that we're trying to talk to, and what are the ways that it provides value for those pieces, back to value selling, and making sure that we're not just feature functioning them to death, but we're always keeping in mind everything we're showing, why does it matter? One of my mentors, she used to always say, so what? That was the question she used to always ask us. So, and if you say that in your head every time you're showing something, it really is a great reminder of, does this really matter? Now, sometimes they make you show you a part that you don't see a value in, and that's different. But when you're driving the agenda, being able to show them the things that matter to them, and if you know your customer and you know your solution, you can do that very well. So I'm about to shift gears into, we've talked a bit about influencing deals. I'm going to shift gears real quick to talk about how do we take this on a macro level. Joel, anything you want me to pause for in the chat, or do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, there's actually been some good discussions and questions. One came up from, let's see, it was Dave McLaughlin. And I think it kind of goes back to your comments about maybe using videos and such. He's saying technical versus value proposition videos. Do you do both? What kind of mix do you do, or do you have, and what has worked best for you in terms of, technical versus value proposition videos?
That's a great question, and you raise a good point, and this may not be where you're coming from, but it triggers a thought in my mind of, we also want to be careful not to be too salesy in what we show them in a video, right? Because when we become too salesy, we morph into another, no offense, Joel, but a salesperson into this deal than a pre-sales person of this end, and so. And what I mean by that is they want to, that trusted advisor becomes, it's no longer a sales motion. So to your question, we do have some videos that show specific kind of functional process, because we actually get asked a lot, hey, I want to see this piece I have already, that I already own. Well, that's not a demo, and our team, that isn't a revenue generating thing, but that customer may want to re-see something that they haven't either implemented. It may be something they haven't used in a while and they want to maybe revisit it. So we have actually created some technical videos for those pieces, or we have seen requirements or I don't want to say requirements, but where a seller, sees an opportunity to have a quick turn. They're talking to a specific catalyst who just wants to see a quick overview of the solution, and rather than pulling the demo team in, they'll say, you know what, the demo team's on the road this week, so I can get you a video today, and then we can have a follow-up discussion if you have some questions you want to go through there. So it's a great question. I would say it's a blend. Sometimes we have to have sort of the functional, technical flow, if you will, to meet some of the needs that we have. But in a perfect world, we would be able to leverage some of those, showing the power of the solution and creating sort of dreams of bigger discussions and questions later on, right? So creating some mystery in there, but doing it in a way that does not doesn't come across as salesy. So in other words, a solution would, example would be, almost like a case study approach. We've had customers share that it takes them, 15 minutes to do this particular function in a payroll process. But by moving to this part of our solution, it's brought them down to 6 minutes. And I'm just making up stats at the moment now. And then showing them just enough in the flow while that overlay of videos or voice is happening to help them see, little snippets of that, but not see the whole process. It creates that mystery. And then they're going to want to talk to that seller and know more. And that probably turns into a more targeted functional flow demo. But we've at least created mystery and excitement about the demo instead of just saying, hey, do you want to see a demo of the solution, right? It's created enough of a desire in that person to ask for more information as opposed to just throwing out the demo right away. I hope that answers the question. And if not, I'm happy to discuss more.
I really like that approach, and Consensus has a couple of perspectives on this. I won't make this a Consensus sales pitch because I know I'm already got the title of seller, right? The guy who's too salesy. But I'll paste in the chat. There's a link that if you want to consume about a couple minutes of, again, it's non-consensus. It's mostly about the 6 demo types and kind of serving up throughout the buyer journey, different depths of technical demos versus value versus problem solution benefit, and kind of addressing those. I highly recommend it. It's for me as a seller, really helped me kind of be more buyer centric rather than so thinking about my sales process and trying to take buyers through what I want, what I need. So I highly recommend. I'll drop the link in the chat if you guys want to consume it afterwards.
And that's a fantastic perspective, Joel, and I would wholeheartedly agree. I mean, you hear it a lot now that we have to. And there's a session I believe later today that I'm going to have to go watch the recording of later. But it's around understanding your buyer. There's actually a few sessions around understanding the buyer perspective, and it is so true that we get so dialed in on what does our process need to be, but sometimes we don't see what it needs to be from the buyer's perspective. And finding that middle ground is very important, while still understanding that we have to follow specific processes to be able to deliver the things that they need to see. Because I'll also argue a customer does not need to see a bad demo. That doesn't help them at all, because sometimes you might be the best solution, but if the demo goes poorly because we didn't get proper prep time or whatever, or I was out too late singing karaoke all night and wasn't prepared for my presentation. No, that did not happen last night, by the way. I was in bed early. But in all seriousness, making sure that they get to see your solution in its proper light is so important. But having that buyer perspective is also super important as well.
Yeah, great point. And from the timekeeping perspective of my side of moderating, we've got about 8 minutes left. Love the chat happening. And there's a couple questions that we'll carve out time for at the end as well. But just checking in on the other poll that you had prompted for everybody, Jeff, around what part of your company benefits most from the pre-sales team's knowledge. Right now, about 60% of the votes are sitting in the product category.
Excellent.
The second leading category is customer success at 25%. Actually just jumped to 27%. Looks like we've got some continued activity. So thanks for responding, everybody, to those polls.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you all. And so, I'm actually very close to wrapping up here, and we've spoken a lot about these pieces. So some of this will be kind of wrap up of what we discussed. So we talk about enhancing the company, and I'm glad to hear product was the biggest motion of gaining ground from pre-sales. Is that we are the front lines. We hear more than anyone what needs to improve on our product. So being able to make sure that we share that information back to the product team in a targeted manner, in a way that has metrics behind it, and if we can tie dollars to it, and I believe it can potentially help them make better justifications for reprioritizing roadmap in the right timing. We've looked at products like Aviv and Hero that have great abilities to provide product gaps and tie those gaps to opportunities and multiple opportunities. So I can say, hey, this specific gap, I've lost 5 deals over the last year for $1 million because of this gap, and knowing, and back to, if you capture that data and you bring it back to product in a targeted fashion, it's very helpful to making sure that your product gets better and keeps pace with the needs of an ever-changing world that we're in. Financing contracts is a pretty simple one. Really, what that comes down to, and you may not have to worry about hardware. In our case, we do sometimes have to worry about including hardware in our deals. Back to the complexity conversation, and finance typically will have like a markup across the board for things. Sometimes hardware, especially as the world moves to a SaaS approach and subscription approach, hardware is sort of a cost of getting to the table at this point. So being able to provide feedback to your finance and contracts team of things that might get in the way of wins, because while that is a seller motion, pre-sales gets to see a lot of that too, and can provide some metrics and targets of, hey, this markup or that actually gets in the way of us being successful. Customer success, I'm glad to hear that was a big one. It's a big one for us too. And a lot of this, I will say, customer success and services are very close together here, and support, really, for that matter, is making sure that what we demo is what can be delivered. Because if that happens and we set the right expectations in the demo, and then it gets deployed properly, then those groups aren't having to play catch up on some of those challenges that come back later on. Also, though, what we can do is share our knowledge to those groups, and this is what's very, very powerful. And our team, some of the leaders on our team drove some initiatives very recently here, where some folks on our team actually got together and did lunch and learns and teaching sessions to some of the folks in success services and support to help share knowledge of our product and what we're hearing out there and how we're demoing it. And it creates this alignment that also makes sure that expectations do get set properly, because services may say, hey, the way you're demoing that isn't the way we implement it now. So then maybe we have to tweak our demo. But by doing that creates alignment, and it really makes sure that we all stay on the same page. And so I'll wrap with this so we can get into those questions. Back to the nucleus thing, the three pieces that a nucleus does: it stores the cell's DNA, it maintains its integrity, and it facilitates replication. We are the DNA, we are the fabric and the center of the companies and everything that we do. We fight hard to maintain the integrity of our product, of our company, and most importantly, our team and for our customers. And facilitate replication. The last thing I'll say is it's okay when your good people go elsewhere in your company. I like to use the term, it infects your company with the energy, with the drive to win, with the knowledge that exists in your pre-sales team. So when you have a good person that says, hey, I want to go work in customer success, or I want to go implement for a while, it's okay, because what it does is that's one more great person that's going to go bring their greatness to another very important part of your company. So that is how, in my mind, we can influence sales and more importantly, your company at large. And I look forward to continue the discussion both in the Q&A and then anytime afterwards. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for the presentation and sharing your insights, Jeff. It's been a really great conversation thus far. There's a question or two that I wanted to bring up in the QA section of our Hopin setup today. It looks like the one that has not been addressed yet is, how do you balance getting your pre-sales team or SCs in the deal early, but not too early to essentially risk misusing their time?
Yes, and that is definitely a great question and a challenge for us. So what I would say is having strong leaders, which, to make sure that team is protected. A lot of times it's our leaders that are the ones that are sort of prodding the salesperson along in the deal, and then we're not having to necessarily pull the SC into the discussion until we're getting close to demo time. But really, a strong leader team that's willing to say to sales, you can't have the SC for this piece, you're getting me instead. I'm going to be the one that's going to ask you the hard questions and push you along. And then, if you need the SC for a call or discussion with a customer, making sure that time is carved out properly. And then the other thing I would say is I'm really big on 15-minute meetings. I know my team doesn't believe that, and they'll call me a liar. But when I see a problem, I like to drop a 15-minute meeting with those parties involved, and it's tight, it's quick, and it gets the discussion out on the table and resolved. So if you have to have a little 15-minute conversation between the seller and the SC and move on, it goes a long way. Great question.
Looks like there's a couple others. How do you start rebuilding a relationship between sales and pre-sales when the organization is transforming?
Yeah, it is. It's always a moving target, I will say. And if I will encourage you that everyone in pre-sales feels a challenge working with the sales team, and and it's not to say it's always bad, but it's always a challenge. And I see Mark just dropped a comment that it starts at the top. That's absolutely true. It requires, in our case, our VPs. So I'm VP of pre-sales. We have two VPs of sales. If I see a problem, I will go straight to them. But also, our leaders go leader to leader, with those other sales teams. I will say it's a matter of having the hard conversations, having, if you have to, get people in a room and talking through the challenges, but coming with facts, right? We're very passionate lot. Therefore, that passion can turn into emotion and frustration, and it's something that I work very hard to rein in on those kinds of discussions. Sometimes it's okay to let a little bit of that out though too. So I would say come with facts to those discussions, and getting people in the room to talk through those goes a long way.
Yeah, I like that. In business, I feel like it's hard sometimes to keep emotions in check. But yeah, consensus, what I loved is we have a total war mentality, and we're always okay checking each other
Yes.
with facts, and keeping it business focused, not personal. And I love that.
Agreed.
Let's check and see if there's any other questions. Hopefully, I haven't missed any. I'm trying to just kind of comb through some of the questions here. There was
And there's
one
actually,
last.
sorry, just real quick, Jacob Smith dropped a great point. Sharing feedback before and after engagements really helps bridge that gap. I agree with that totally. Having debriefs after demos, and debriefing not just though on what the demo person did, but what the seller did and didn't do, goes a long way to bringing that and bringing their leaders into that. So that's a great point, Jacob. Sorry, go ahead, Joel.
No. Great. I'm glad you picked up on that and answered that. Well, we're 1 minute over, so we probably ought to wrap. It looks like we addressed most questions either in chat or on the discussion. So thank you guys all for participating. And Jeff, again, thank you for sharing your expertise and some insights here. It's been an awesome session.
Yes, thank you all for your time. Have a great day.
As a couple just things as reminders real quick, we want to remind you that each session you attend gets you an entry into a raffle at the with some really awesome prizes. So be sure to attend as many sessions as you can. And our final session on May 19th, it's at 2 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Eastern. It's where we'll be raffling off all of those prizes. So you definitely don't want to miss that. And then we're excited, by the way, DEMOFEST is going on the road if you haven't heard this already. So be sure to attend the last session on the 19th to find out what cities we'll be in and where and when. And lastly, we encourage you to stop by our expo, visit Premier Partners DEMOFEST, because really there's been no exchange in money or currency, right, to have you all participate, which we're excited and proud to do. But feel free to contribute to any of the different organizations we support. And you've got a great lineup of other sessions coming up. This one I love, and know Mark, both of these Mark is an employee at Consensus, previous employee are employed at Sage. And then Mark McKinley is a good friend of mine as well. Highly recommend the session, but great lineup coming up. So hope you guys can attend some other sessions, and thank you again for joining today.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a good one, guys. Thanks, Jeff.